Mr. Chair, this is Charlie Howder, Director of Office of Land Conservation and Management.
Okay, Mr. Howley, you're recognized. Go ahead, and we've got the
Thank you,
presentation
thank
up on
you,
the screen.
sir. So we are asking the board to consider a contract to purchase the Fox Pen Connector property this evening. This property was added to the active acquisition list back in May of 2019, and your staff has been working diligently to get to this point. The property is owned by Weyerhaeuser NR Company and the Weyerhaeuser Company. It consists of about 15 tax parcels and a total of 3,995 acres. It's all zoned ag, rural ag at this point. This did go through our scoring matrix for the Land Conservation Board, and it's scored at a very healthy 7.27 out of 10. Here's the location map. The property is in the southeast corner of Alachua County up against the Putnam County line. You see it in red on this particular map. And a couple of things to note here. This map will form a tremendous wildlife corridor. It's in the critical ecological corridor that's in the county's comp plan and ties together a lot of different areas of public land. This is a slight zoom in on the property showing the various parcels in it. I do want to point out one particular parcel, if I can show it on my screen. I don't know if y'all can see this, but there's a 40-acre parcel that does not touch a public road. And I'll mention that later in the presentation, but that's only one 40-acre property that has that condition. Otherwise, there's numerous access points to this property. So this property is all about the wetlands, and you're going to see pictures that show the really beautiful wetland ponds that dot this whole property. It connects the Fox Pen Tract that we acquired jointly with the Alachua Conservation Trust on the north of the property and Lochloosa Slough on the south for about 6,000 acres of contiguous county ownership and overall about 10,000 acres of contiguous public ownership. It lies within the East Lochloosa Forest and Lochloosa Slough strategic ecosystems. I mentioned that it's within the critical ecological corridor and will provide numerous recreational opportunities. I'll mention at this point that I have already reached out to the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, talked to their regional director, Chris Wynn, and he's very excited about the possibility of working with the county on Lochloosa Slough and the connector here for the possibility of a wildlife management area for public hunting. So if this goes forward, we will carry through with those conversations and potentially bring an agreement for that back to the board. The next few slides will just show you some pictures of the property. I mentioned the wetlands and the various ponds, and you can see the excellent condition, beautiful ponds that are scattered out through here. So visually it's stunning. From a recreational standpoint for fishing, it's got a lot of possibilities. There's abundance of wildlife as you would expect. The primary use by Weyerhaeuser has been silviculture. This is not inconsistent with other county properties, and we would continue a lot of that work, but moving towards restoring the natural longleaf communities in the most part. A few other pictures of the natural attributes, and ending up on one more picture of one of the prettier ponds on the property. We are proposing a fee simple acquisition here with the Alachua County staff as lead managers for the property. Although, as I said, the Fish and Wildlife Commission is interested in working with us and would relieve some of our burden there. If this contract goes through, our closing date would be August 27 of this year. If you've looked at the materials, we included the title commitment for the property, and you will see that it is got a very long list of title exceptions. Many of those exceptions will go away when the survey is complete because they're items related to contiguity and public access that will be proven out by the survey. And there are some things that, because this is a part of Weyerhaeuser's larger ownership, they picked up things in the public record that applied to Weyerhaeuser's ownership, but not this specific piece of property. And we've already been working with the title company and the attorney's office to get some of those reservations omitted. What you see here on this slide are a few of the things that are in the title exceptions that we think will probably survive that final review, but we think that they have very low risk to the county in terms of being able to protect its property rights and use the property. And so even though the contract that's before you only has a list of what I would consider standard title exceptions, we would ask the board to approve us going ahead with these specific items on the exception list. That will keep us from getting held up in the closing of the property. So you see here there are 3 different items that were discovered where the state of Florida has some reservation in oil, gas, and minerals. These basically go back to deeds of transfer back in the 40s. There is an easement to West Putnam Enterprises, although this easement is actually along the same footprint as Southeast 162nd Avenue. And so there's a public road there anyway, so we don't feel that the easement really causes any concern there. The state of Florida has one perpetual drainage easement. I actually feel that this is not within the footprint of the property, but I couldn't prove that out. So if I'm correct, then it is of no consequence. And if it is affecting the property, it's a small drainage easement and wouldn't be of great concern. And then I mentioned that 140-acre property. It doesn't appear to have public access at this point. It doesn't touch a public road, but it's 40 acres out of a 4,000-acre property, and it is primarily wetland, and so there's not going to be a lot of need to access that property anyway. But we'll continue to work with the surveyor and see if there is legal access to the property. In terms of the other terms of the contract, the purchase price would be $2,690 an acre. At the estimated acreage, that amounts to $10,748,352. But that will be adjusted based on the final surveyed acreage. This price is about equal to the average of the 2 appraisals that we obtained, the average being $2,694.52. We have an estimated $208,000 in due diligence, including the environmental site assessment, the boundary survey, which is the biggest thing, attorney's fees, title insurance, that type of thing. When we bring these to you, we ask for a 10% contingency that covers both extra acreage if there turns out to be more acreage in the property than we expect once the survey's done, and also any difference in the final cost for the due diligence costs. If the contingency is not used, it just rolls back into the Wild Spaces Fund. So it's not lost to the program or the county. Now, one thing that Weyerhaeuser has agreed to do, they have agreed to rebate us a total of $60,000 against the cost of the survey. So, that's a little under half of the cost of the survey, which we thought was a significant concession on their part. So, Mr. Chair, our final recommendation is to approve and authorize the chair to execute the contract to purchase the property, to approve the acquisition subject to the various title exceptions that I discussed, to authorize staff to execute additional documents as necessary to close the transaction, and to approve the budget amendment authorizing the expenditure of funds for due diligence and associated costs.
Okay,
And with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Howler. Commissioner Wheeler.
Mr. Chair, I don't have any questions. I just want to congratulate your team, Mr. Howder, for pulling this together and getting it done. This is an amazing thing that we've got going here for a lot of different reasons. But I would move staff's recommendation on the purchase of the Lochloosa Slough without question.
I'll second that, although I did want to notice that Mr. Howder didn't mention number 5, which is authorize staff to use wild spaces, public places funding in his statement, so I just want to make sure that's included in the motion.
Thank you, yes.
So, Charlie, in your recommendations, also to authorize staff to use wild spaces, public places, land acquisition funds for the land management costs associated with this property over time?
Yes, Mr. Chair, that was just an oversight in my presentation. I apologize.
No problem. So that's okay in the motion?
Yes, good.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, let's go ahead and put out the public number. And Adam, welcome to the meeting.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the opportunity to work with you all. We have one speaker at the moment, Mr. Nathan Scott.
Okay, before we
Mr.
get
Scott.
before we get to Nathan, hold on one second. Anyone over in Grace Knight?
I'm sorry.
No, okay, no, that's okay, Adam. That's my fault. Mr. Scott, go ahead. You're recognized.
Mr. Scott, you have 3 minutes.
Yes, good afternoon, Commissioners. Nathan Scott. So I want to commend staff in terms of seeking FWC involvement in terms of not only helping with the costs, but providing outdoor opportunities to enhance wildlife habitat and wildlife management. I think that's kind of what's missing. I know the county, when it's purchased large tracts of land, it's done some solicitations, which I know I myself and others appreciate in terms of having people help to manage the land and in consideration of being able to manage wildlife populations, particularly feral hogs and the like, which are running rampant out at South Alaska, as you guys are probably aware of. But I do think that partnership is really good, because not only does it preserve the land, but it provides public access to the land of a lot of people, not just, environmentalists. It provides open access to do certain things. So I encourage the county to continue its involvement with FWC and those items, because again, I think that makes it more of a win-win proposition in terms of being able to provide recreational and important resources to not only wildlife habitat, but proper wildlife management for those properties that are otherwise not be really utilized without the typical activities that existed on them before. So thank you all for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Thank you for those comments. Okay, Adam, next caller, please.
Mr. Chairman, there's nobody else on the line. The floor is yours.
Okay, we'll bring it back to the board. So, any other discussions
Just
by the
amazing.
board?
Amazing.
Okay, this is a,
We need 3 people in the room, do we not?
yes, we're gonna hold on 1 second. I think Commissioner Alford just had to step out for 1 quick second, and then we'll go ahead and bring it back to the board.
Mr. Chair, I will mention while we're waiting that if approved and acquired, this will be the largest acquisition under Alachua County forever, both in terms of acreage and in dollars.
Yeah, I mean, Charlie, you were working on this when I got elected 6.5 years ago. Commissioner Wheeler kind of hit it right on the head. This is This is a big success story for you and your team, and I wanted to congratulate you for it.
Can't you imagine Hutch is jumping up and down, you know, to have this.
Yeah.
fire alarm.
And did we lose Commissioner Prizia? Do you know?
Yes,
Yes.
she notified me that she would be dropping off.
Okay. So we now have 3 commissioners in the room. So, Mary, do you have any other comments on this motion?
No, I do not.
Okay, so we've got all those in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes 4-0 with Commissioner Prizia